Alrighty guys, it is Quaman here today, and I'm bringing you another weekly Dragon Ball Super discussion. But this time I am not alone, as I am joined with...
It's me.
Yes, it's Geekdom 101. And in this video, we're going to be talking more so in general about the recent revelations that happened in episode 61 of Dragon Ball Super, which you can pretty much make a serious argument that it's probably the most important episode of the series in terms of all the things that we learned and all the things that were revealed. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video, as we're going to talk about certain elements going to the revealing of Black, the timelines in general, and the fate of Goten, Chi-Chi, and the rest of that timeline itself. So if you guys haven't seen episode 61, don't watch this video, as you guys probably would have known by now. So Geekdom, going into the actual revelation of Goku Black himself, are you satisfied with the direction of Super in terms of how they pretty much made him out to be Zamasu?
I am, and I like the way they did it. See, sometimes when you watch a show like this, Dragon Ball, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, any show, it doesn't matter, even Beverly Hills 90210, any show that's serialized, not episodic, you have to enjoy the journey. And if the journey is a fun journey, the journey to me is worth it. And a lot of people were saying they were disappointed because it was Zamasu. Oh, we all knew that. That's the thing, is that a good show kind of gives you clues about things and lets you figure it out. And then when you do figure it out, you feel good about yourself. And this show, I felt, this story arc did a fantastic job so far of making us, introducing Goku Black as a threat, introducing Zamasu as a confused god who has, I don't know what you call it, just a delusions of grandeur, I guess you could say. And for a while there, in the early third of this arc, a lot of us, including myself, I did a video about it, we knew that, or we assumed that Zamasu would eventually become Goku Black. Many of us thought that he would take Goku's dead body from the future, all kinds of different theories. And then as the show progressed, when Whis made his theory, we all kind of shifted, and we were like, well, wait a minute, maybe what Whis said is true. Maybe Goku Black or Zamasu created Goku Black with the Super Dragon Balls. And then I was seeing some other theories like, Captain Ginyu and Goten, and some of these theories, some were great, some were kind of dumb, but at the end of the day, it wound up being Zamasu. And then what they did to kind of screw with us is, when they went back to the future, they saw Goku Black and they saw Zamasu appear right after him, and we were all like, wait a minute, so it can't be Zamasu. So at the end of the day, it wound up being a different timeline Zamasu anyways, which I love. I loved it. I think it makes perfect sense. I like the idea that he took Goku's body, because it's like a philosophical, and also a for philosophical reasons and for power reasons. So I love it. I think it's great. I think that, was it a little bit predictable? Sure, but you couldn't have predicted all these things that happen. Nobody was able to successfully prognosticate every single little detail, and it was great. I don't know how you can really complain about this, unless, again, and this is not really, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here, but a lot of Dragon Ball fans, whenever something doesn't happen that they want, they bitch. And that's not just Dragon Ball, that's anything. Like when they watch a movie, if their favorite character, if Gohan doesn't kill Hit, or if Vegeta doesn't kill Frieza, in their mind, this thing sucks, Toriyama's an idiot. And it's just, when you have that kind of fanboyish mentality, I personally can't take you seriously. Because if you're so attached to a fictional character that you want him to succeed, even though he's a fictional character. And again, I understand you wanting somebody to succeed, but if the story's not about them, it's not about them. Case in point, this. Like, if you wanted Goku Black to be Goten, just because it wasn't Goten doesn't mean that the arc sucks. In fact, if it was Goten, it would have made the arc worse.
Yeah, and it would have made it completely irrelevant, because of the fact that Goten can't even exist in that time either. So that's why I always thought that was so funny. But the weird thing is, though, Geekdom, there's obviously been a lot of foreshadowing into a lot of the things that were happening. And a lot of people, and it's the jury's still not out yet, but a lot of people have been really speculating about this Zeno button. And one thing that did kind of shock me, Geekdom, is that if you look at both the present timeline and the future timeline, it's kind of weird that, obviously considering the fact that Black was saying how he killed all of the gods of the future, how Zeno has had no involvement in this. And I've kind of been doing my review, and this is more of a speculation thing slightly that we're going to put in this video, but do you think Zeno is going to somehow get involved at some point?
That's a more of a prediction. I think at the end of the arc, I do think that Zeno is going to reorganize things because we now, obviously now Gowasu. Okay, Gowasu is alive now because Beerus killed Zamasu. So the God of Destruction, Universe 10, is alive. And as a result of that, everything's been fixed in the present. The present's fine. But the Omni King may have to go to the future to rectify some things. I mean, we don't know for sure how that's going to work out. And we don't know if he can even do that, if there's a different Omni King in the future. But I think that he's going to come in there and get involved with that. But I think the whole reason why we haven't seen the Zeno button used is because Beerus told Goku, do not get the Omni King involved because we're time traveling, we're fucking around, and we can't do, we're going to get in trouble. He doesn't want to get in trouble with Zeno. That's pretty much it.
Right. That's a really good point. And like, honestly, man, like I thought that that would obviously be the key to the story. But to go more into like the whole time travel stuff, Geekdom, you just recently made a time travel video, and I'm obviously working on one that I'm going to do that actually encompasses everything once the arc is finished. Do you think the whole advent of doing all this time travel is actually good for the story, or do you think it's a little bit too confusing or maybe a little too complex for maybe the casual viewer to get into?
It's extremely complex. The fact that I took, and you were there in the call, we spent some time, we spent about 2 hours figuring this out, and we had to actually examine different time travel paradoxes, like the predestination paradox, the bootstrap paradox. You can look all this up on the internet, or you can go to different books and things like that. The fact that Toriyama's pulling from all these different, I guess fictional pseudoscience, because it's not real science because time travel is not really possible. But if you're pulling it from different pseudosciences, it really is complex. Like, it really is something that I don't really understand how kids, like little kids, not like, people who like kind of like teenage adults or even more grown adults. I mean, like the little kids that watch this show, like, 10, 11 years old, who watch it for the fights. Are they going to care? Are they going to be confused? I don't know. Sometimes you'd be surprised because kids are really smart. Kids can figure stuff out before adults can sometimes. But I do think it's a tiny bit too complex, and I think that I mean, it helps us out. We can make content about it. So, but yeah, I do think it is a little bit too complex. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and obviously, like, I did like an alternate timeline theory back in the day, and I'll tell you, Danny, even though I was analyzing 4 timelines, what I said in my alternate timeline theory was pretty straightforward. Like, it wasn't like super complicated where it was like a loop that caused a loop, in a sense. It was more so of things kind of linking towards the subject, whereas this timeline travel, even though it's a lot shorter and smaller, it's a lot more condensed in its complexity. But to go some more into the advent of both, Goku Black as Zamasu and going into how he killed Goten and Chi-Chi, this really begs the question of what do you think happened to what we refer to, Danny, unofficially as the negative present timeline and the fixed present timeline? Like, do you think that in some way or another that Zamasu just killed Goku and just went through and did his business, or do you think the actual Z fighters had some form of resistance? That's one thing I was wondering as well.
I don't think that happened at all. I think that once he took Goku's body, his next plan was to go right to future Trunks' timeline because of what Gowasu had said about how somebody was screwing around with time. Because you have to look at it from this perspective. He went to future Trunks' timeline to see what the hell was going on with, not just to keep killing, other gods and that whole thing, but also to figure out what was up with the time travel. Because if you remember, and people are forgetting this detail, Black destroyed Trunks' time machine. He did that in the present because he thought, okay, now I'm going to stop these time travel shenanigans. Even though what makes him a great villain is that he's a hypocrite, because if it wasn't for those time travel shenanigans, he wouldn't exist, and he's using time travel shenanigans, which again, I love that. I love it when there's a hypocritical villain, because hypocrites are, annoying. So he destroyed the time machine with the idea of, let me put an end to this right now. He figured out right away that Trunks is the guy screwing around with timeline. So that's the thing, is that I don't think he stuck around. Once he took Goku's body, he used the time ring to go right to Trunks' future and then go recruit the other Zamasu.
And that's really more so what really made like the story a lot more complex in nature. But to move on to probably, I guess you could say, the climax of this video here, Geekdom.
Oh, I love climaxing.
Everybody wants to talk about this new Trunks form. You already did a video on it, and I think that we kind of have to discuss this by default. So, we made a video with Hail Zeon a long time ago about, is Dragon Ball Super getting too many transformations? Do you look at this as a completely new transformation, or do you just look at this as Trunks' power just rising to the top?
No, I think it is a new form, but I think I like it. I'm okay with it because I think this form, and I don't know for sure, but I think it's exclusive to Trunks. I do think it's exclusively his form. So, I like it for Trunks. I just don't think Goku and Vegeta should be using it. I think it's just for him. That's my opinion, though.
Yeah, I mean, and we both, like, geeked out when we saw that, because, like, honestly, man, like, I don't think anybody was expecting to see that. Like, when we saw Trunks' new power, I was thinking maybe he just gets really mad and, like, beats somebody up for a few seconds, but I didn't, you know, actually think it was going to be a new form. And just talking about the artwork, bro, I think it's a really cool-looking transformation with, you know, the dilated pupils, and it looks kind of like Broly, but in Trunks' body. And obviously, we said before that, you know, the basis of Trunks' Ultra form was used for Broly. So, I don't know, man. I'm saying I think it's really cool, and I just kind of hope we get to see more of Trunks, maybe in a future arc.
I think, I don't know, that's too soon to discuss, honestly, but I think this arc has done a great job of bringing him back and really bringing a lot of interest into Dragon Ball Super. It's been pretty fantastic. This is the best work Toriyama's done, I would say. I would even say, in some ways, this arc surpassed the Cell arc, honestly, as far as, and not entirely, because it's not over yet. We need a big climax, like the Cell Saga, because that's the one thing about the Cell Saga, is that it had a great climax. I love climaxing. But we need a great climax here, but so far, the story, I think, is vastly more interesting, and that was a great arc, too.
Alright, so, with everything else said, I think this has been a good weekly discussion. I'm really grateful to have Geekdom 101 on this channel today, as we're pretty much discussing the three big things that happened in terms of the revelation of Goku Black, the whole timeline shenanigans, and Trunks' new form. Ultimately, I think all these new forms are going to add a lot more towards the series, and I definitely think that this is by far the most enriched arc of the Dragon Ball Super series so far. I think it shits on the other arcs so much so it's not even funny. So, with everything else said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this weekly Dragon Ball Super discussion, and please check out Geekdom 101's channel in my description. So with everything else said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe, and remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys.
Bye.